Hey buddy, it's Peter, and this is going to be a good one because the 2024s are starting to arrive here at Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals in Fredericton, New Brunswick. So what we have here is the KLX 300R in the new paint scheme. That is a 2024, so that's a new paint scheme for 2024. And this is the KLX 300, not the R, which means this is the street and trail version, the dual sport version. This is the on and off-road version. Now this one will be new for 2024 as well. It's going to have a new headlight, it's going to have some new shrouds, but essentially the 2024 bike will be the same as this. So what we're going to do in this video is more than just show you the new color, which by the way does not show up perfectly on camera, but more than just showing you the color, we're going to show you the differences between these two bikes in a way that the spec sheet doesn't show. So of course, if you want to actually compare every minute detail of the differences, the best place to go is to the Kawasaki website, and you can compare side by side. Just open two browser windows and go side by side. What I'm going to try to do is go beyond the spec sheet and show you things that the spec sheet doesn't show you. So again, filming here at Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals, Jim Gilbert's Power Sports, they give me complete access to their entire product line. So if you have questions about this bike or that bike or anything in the Kawasaki lineup, make sure you subscribe and let me know in the comments below, because I will make sure I come back to your questions. If I can't answer in the comment section, I'll take your questions and bring them back in future videos. Those of you looking for the 2024 KLX 300, as soon as it arrives here, I will have it. This is the #1 volume Kawasaki dealer in the country. So if they're going to get it early, it's going to be these guys. I can't say they're getting it early because they're #1, but they're going to have plenty of them in stock, and I will get it as soon as it arrives and have it on this channel. So let's get going with the review. So obviously you know the difference between these two bikes is this one is road legal and this one is not. And there's more than just a dash, which is going to be the difference. But there's a few little differences that, again, show up in the spec sheet, and visually they look a little different. This one has a 0.2 of an inch higher seat height than that one, but I can tell you just standing here looking at it, it does look different. So we're going to talk about some of these differences. First thing I want to do though is just hop on. So I'm about 6 feet tall, and this bike, if I put it off the kickstand, it's a little easier for me. This bike does compress on the suspension a little bit. Again, I'm a little bit floating on my feet here, so I'm a little bit tippy-toed on both sides, but it's a pretty good, you know, not crazy tall dirt bike. The KLX lineup overall, and again, I'm on a bit of a hill here, so we're gonna make sure it stays there. The KLX lineup overall is not the KX lineup. The KX lineup is the competition lineup. This is a true trail bike, sort of a typical dirt bike for the rest of us, people like me who aren't gonna be riding a competition bike. Over here, the KLX 300, again, fairly tall bike. The kickstands are different. We're gonna show you that in a second here. But again, it's a 0.2 of an inch lower seat height, so it is still a fairly tall bike, and I'm just floating here, maybe a little bit difference in seat height, but again, I'm slightly tippy-toed on both bikes. So while one of them looks to me visually to be taller, the dirt bike that is, it does not actually feel much taller overall. So a couple other little differences that we should point out just here with the seat. Styling wise, you've got this gray with this gray here. I really like this gray color because it takes it away from sort of the typical green that Kawasaki uses. I have nothing wrong with that, but it just gives you a little bit of variety. You still can clearly see it's a Kawasaki, but it just looks sharp, it looks more modern, and I like that. So that gray styling comes down here. Now again, the seat comes right up here on the tank. You have a similar type of system set up over there, but there's no strap. Over here, you have this extra strap for the passenger, and of course, because it's a street and trail bike and it's a road legal bike, when you have a passenger, you need foot pegs. So if you want to take someone anywhere, this is your only option out of these two bikes. The strap, let's be honest, nobody holds on to those anymore. You're going to hold on to the rider in front of you probably, but you do have foot pegs here, so you have the ability to take that, and you've got the little toolkit here. So seat shape is probably similar, but there's also a little bit of difference here. You can sort of feel a sharper edge here. I don't know if that's just me or not, both of which are going to give you a pretty comfortable ride on and off-road. But now let's take a look at the front, and we'll move our way back on these bikes because there's a bunch of things that I haven't shown you that I want to show you up close. So taking a look at the front wheel here, I always say you can sort of tell a bike's purpose by looking at the front wheel here. And you've got a couple things going on. First of all, the one thing to know is your tires are not the same on these. If you are doing hardcore off-road stuff, these are hardcore off-road tires, at least in comparison to the other bike, which we'll show you up close. These have much bigger knobs, much taller knobs right out to the edge. And size-wise, they're similar tire size, but they're listed as a different way. This, I believe, is metric and imperial, but it is what it is. is. There's a little difference in listing there, but they are different tires, and these are not road legal tires, which makes sense. It's not a road legal bike. You do have the gold fork tubes here, which I really kind of like. It sort of ties into the header pipe there. It gives a nice offset, and it really complements well with the gray color above. Down here, you've got pedal style disc brakes. They appear to be the same to me. At first glance, I thought they were different, but if they are different, they're very, very similar between the two bikes. Let's just show you right now the front wheel on the other bike though. All right, the road going or more road going bike, this is the KLX 300, not the R. And you can see the nubs here are a little more rounded, a little more closer together, and not quite as deep. So these actually handle quite well on the road, but still give you pretty good traction on off-road. So for me, this would be more tire than I ever need for just about everything I'm gonna do. But if you're more hardcore than me, then things may be different. Now you do have this extra cable down here that you don't have on the dirt bike. That's gonna be your speedometer cable, wheel speed anyways, so speedometer. It's going to be something that is not behind the shroud here, it is in front, so if you're again hitting a lot of sticks and other stuff, that's what is exposed over here. I don't think it's a huge issue for you, but again, if you're super hardcore and that kind of thing, running into sticks and other stuff, you do have a piece that is less protected here, and you know, not something that would be needed on the dirt bike because the dirt bike doesn't have a dash. Let's move our way back through these bikes, show you a couple of little differences, and the kickstand is one thing I want to show you on the other side that's actually kind of interesting, that's different on these two bikes. So we'll take a quick look at the 300R dirt bike here. You can see engines basically shared, so you're gonna have all the same basic components in the same spot. Now you'll notice it's very clean underneath here. You've got that crash bar underneath there. And like I said, very clean, nothing there. That is a little bit different on the KLX, the non-R or the off-road type version. So you've got just a few little differences in here as well. This here is a little pad here, so just to keep you from scuffing the frame if you're rubbing your heel up against there. But you can see it's kind of open in here. Let's just go immediately to the KLX 300, the road going version, and see a slight difference. So we're really digging into the nerdy stuff here, but again, you can see all major components are the same. You've got the guards down here, but you've got the various vent tubes down here. You also have a little reservoir up here that is not on the other bike, and down here, that reservoir, the pipe, the tube behind it is covered by this extra protective piece where you don't have that. You had that little pad on the frame on the other bike. The other thing you'll see is the frame on the gray bike, or the lighter gray bike, is a more silver color frame, and on this camo color here, it's a black color frame. So that's just a couple little differences to be aware of. The other thing we should point out here, of course, is we did mention this has the foot pegs, which are actually very tight on this bike. I can't get them down right now. I think they're over tightened a little bit, but there's a protective piece there behind just to have them up. That could be used as a tie down as well if you're taking any little bit of luggage with you as well. And but there is that, and then there is a difference on the rear brake. I'm going to show you that right now. So we're staying with the KLX 300. Again, the road going bike, the camo bike, the dark frame here, not the lighter frame. And the brakes appear to me to be the same. A little bit of pedal style, they're vented brakes here, of course. And then on this bike, you have a protective piece over the caliper here. On the dirt bike, this protective piece is not there. And let me just take a quick look at it. Yeah, you could add it. There is the sort of braze-ons here to be added, but this one comes with that. The dirt bike does not. So just an interesting piece. On the road going bike, you have a little extra protection for your caliper. On the dirt bike, you do not. All right, in the sort of Captain Obvious situation here, you've got a fully different back end. You've got the area here for a license plate, big fender here. You can get fender eliminators for these bikes as well, but you have a significant fender down here with the signal lights, the tail light, and that kind of thing. Over here, of course, wide open. You do have reflectors here. You can take them on or off. There's just a couple screws right there, but you are fully clear here. So any debris, anything like that is not catching anything at all on the dirt bike. And again, it depends on your riding style. If you're primarily off-road with that one, this one may be better for you. But if you want to blend your on and off-road, obviously the street and trail is better. You can also see a little bit of those thick, deep, spaced out treads here, those blocks there on the tread, whereas you have a little bit more of a rounded profile and closer together. And I say rounded, this is still rounded, but there's just less space between, so you kind of see that roundness, whereas this is pronounced blocks more than pronounced shape there. So again, those tires are different. Let's show you that kickstand difference, because this is something that really surprised me. So I'm hoping you can see this well. It's very noticeable to me on this bike. When I put the kickstand up, it's just sort of normal street bike style. It's not super out of the way. It's just normal. That's what it is. So you bring that down there like that. And again, I say normal for me. I'm more of a road going kind of guy. Now this kickstand comes up much higher, and you can see it just really rides up higher. So when you go to use your foot to put it down, especially if you're standing beside the bike like I am right now, it is noticeably higher and it feels a little bit more tucked in. I'm not sure if that's just because it is higher or if it's on a slightly different angle, but it is a difference here. And again, you have a kickstand with this KLX 300, but you do not have issues with it really for clearance in any way. Of course, you can get KX bikes without a kickstand, but that is one thing that sort of intrigued me, is that when I went to put the kickstand down on this bike here, it was in a normal spot, and I went to put it down on this bike and I could not find the kickstand. The other thing I should probably point out that I haven't pointed out yet, and I did notice here, let's see if we can do some fancy camera work and zoom in. Because this is a road going bike, this has a nice little feature that they don't have on a lot of road going bikes right there. You have a little helmet lock right there. So again, you can lock your helmet to the bike, go into class, go into work, do whatever you want, and it is something that is nice to have as just a road going bike. Let's take a look at the lack of dash here. There is some information up in the dash area, and then we'll compare that with the KLX, which actually has one of the better dirt bike style dashes in the Kawasaki lineup. We'll explain that as we get there, but let's just show you what you have on this KLX bike first. So when I say the KLX bike, of course, they're both KLXs 300R. It's a little confusing with the naming here on this video, but you can see over here, you do have a fuel light and you do have an engine light in there. So you do have some information, which is good. Again, there's no petcock to flip or anything like that. This is a fuel injected bike. So a fuel light will tell you when you are low on fuel. An engine light will tell you if you've got an issue there. And that's it for dash information, right? It's just the two lights, and that's typical of a dirt bike. So less information, less to break, less to go wrong. Again, if you're hardcore off-roading, that's probably what you want. Now, these are both liquid-cooled bikes, so you've got solid, steady performance, but you've also got a few extra piping to be aware of when you are off-road. So let's go take a look at the dash of the KLX 300, the non-R version, and we'll show you the differences. So a road-going bike is legally required to have a road-going dash, and this one is better than some in the Kawasaki lineup. For instance, the KLR, which is a higher spec bike than this, even the KLR Adventure, doesn't have a tachometer. This is the dash that I think should be on the KLR, but it's on this KLX. So what you have here is really basic stuff. You got a clock down there, you've got an odometer in there, it also shows trip A, trip B, and that's it. But you do have a tachometer with a red line of about 10,500, so you do have some information there, tell you when to shift, which again, for a road going bike, when you're kind of working it out, it is kind of nice to have, especially if you're getting up into highway speed. You're going to rev this bike out. It is fully highway capable. It can go, interstate highways, major highways. It can handle those speeds, but it's going to be busy doing that. So having a sense of where you are in the rev range is really helpful on a bike like this, and I appreciate that. Now in the past, on the other bike, you had the engine light, and what was the other light that we talked about? The fuel light. So you still have the engine light and fuel light here, temperature coolant kind of situation. High beam light, because you need high beams, you have signal light and a neutral light. So again, a little bit more information on this bike here. And of course that also leads to, let's see if I can do some smooth camera work, also the basic street level controls here. So you have high beams, signal lights, and a horn, which of course you wouldn't have. And over there on the right of your picture, let's go all the way up, you do have a mirror. So of course mirrors are legal for the road. So those are the differences, which of course you knew about. So let's talk about who these bikes are for. Well, first of all, this one is the 2023 model. We should point out 2024 is going to have that new headlight, some revised shrouds as they call it on the website. The new headlight will be an LED headlight. So make sure if you want to see that, we're going to see if there are any other differences. As you can see, I kind of pay attention to some of the details here and the nerdy details. But we're going to see if there's any other differences in that 2024 when it arrives. So make sure you subscribe if you're interested in this bike, because we can compare 2023 and 2024. This one, of course, none of that street and trail stuff. So the obvious answer is, obviously, if you're never going to go on the road, this is the one to have. But a couple things to keep in mind. If you're like me and you live in a bit of a rural area, sometimes you take your dirt bike on the roads to get to the trail. I'm not saying I do it, I'm not saying you do it, I'm not saying it's legal. I'm just saying, if that's the kind of rider you are, these are not street rated. It's something worth knowing. They don't give you a lot of street traction. It's fine if you're careful and you know what you're doing, but keep in mind, if you're riding a lot of asphalt on these to get to the trails and not trailering this bike, you do have different tires that are definitely less street capable, and something worth keeping in mind. Again, to me, this bike looks like it's taller, but from an actual feel perspective, it doesn't really feel any taller. Both of these are comfortable, and you really just have to decide, what do you want a bike for? If you want a very focused bike that does one thing and does one thing very well, that's probably this bike. This is probably the one for you. What this bike gives you is a little less, it's a little more of a jack of all trades, right? So it gives you a little less focused performance on the dirt, but it's almost like a mini adventure bike. It does give you pretty good suspension travel. It has a firmer suspension than some of the other brands, and that can be a good thing. They, you feel the firmness, the softness you can feel in a parking lot, but once you get on the trails, you want a nice firm suspension. So suspension on this bike is excellent. Suspension on both these bikes is excellent. But for a street road-going bike, this does give you a lot of versatility. You can get to school on this, you can get to work on this, you can get around town, you can do your, run around, you can put a little tail bag on here, strap it down, and you have the options to do a few more bits of riding. And if that's the kind of versatile riding you're looking for, this is absolutely the better choice, because while those tires are street rated, they're probably good enough for everything you would probably want to do off-road. Once you really say, hey, I'm a little bit more of an advanced off-road rider, and that's where I want to focus, that's where this bike comes in. Now, there are steps up from here into the KX lineup, which gives you, again, more performance off-road. So you probably already know which one you're leaning towards, but again, if you're trailing, this is the one to go to. If you're trailing all the time, because this one's going to give you that better off-road bike than this one. But if you want a really versatile bike, 300 is there for you. Again, maybe I didn't answer all the questions you have about these bikes, but if you do have further questions, let me know in the comments below, because like I said, I'm here at Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals, Jim Gilbert's Power Sports, and they give me complete access to their entire vehicle lineup. And if there's something you want to know, something I missed, something you wish I would cover, let me know, because I'll come back to these bikes. And again, this is the very first 2024 Kawasaki motorbike that I have reviewed for here at Kawasaki. So we're going to make sure that we cover the entire 2024 lineup as they start pouring in. And again, we'll cover the 2024 of this. Actually, I just put my hand on the gas tank. That's one thing I should point out as well. Because this bike has a key, this one does not have a key. This one has a keyed gas tank cap, which is nice to have if you're out in public, where of course this one does not, but you're probably not leaving this out around as you go into a store, because you probably can't get to the store legally anyways. So little differences there. You probably already knew about them, but there you go. There's your review of the KLX 300R and in this awesome new color, and the KLX 300 in this awesome digi camo color, which is really cool and should continue on for 2024. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.